You are now tuned in to the Storm Tracker Podcast.
All right, it's the Storm Tracker Podcast. I'm Marcus Benjamin here with my guy Frank Tucker, representing for CanesCounty.com. And make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube as well as the website, of course, CanesCounty.com. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and also follow this podcast on wherever you listen to your podcast. And first and foremost, we do want to talk about the story of the week in recruiting, which is Cormani McClain, the 5-star cornerback out of Lakeland, committed to the Miami Hurricanes, scheduled to sign with Miami on Wednesday. Out of nowhere, his mom on social media says there's a delay. Sorry for the convenience. Everybody is kind of shocked about it. But when we checked in with Miami, they still remain pretty confident to land the 5-star cornerback. But this has been a kind of a crazy scenario because we thought that he was going to commit on Thursday, then Friday. Now we're here on Christmas Eve and still no signing, which means McClain will likely sign to Miami in February. Now, when that official National Signing Day rolls around, first Wednesday of February. So the whole scenario is kind of crazy. First off, I'll say kind of, what I know and what I can share because I can't share everything that I know about the situation. However, there is kind of a growing concern, let's just say, with his education or transcripts or just him completing certain classes or whatnot. That is kind of been part of the issue. And then he also was hearing offers also from several schools that included Colorado. Coach Prime over there in Boulder, who it seems like he's trying to get anybody who has a top 10 list without Colorado. He goes out there and offers the kid. That's what it seems like is showing up on social media. And then, of course, Alabama has been rumored to try to make another, case for him to come to Tuscaloosa as well. Crazy situation, but I still feel like Miami is in a great position to still land Cormani. Your thoughts on that whole situation, Frank?
My thoughts are signing day is always interesting. It's always going to be a whole ordeal.
First off, man, your voice is like crazy. Why don't you just tell the people like what's going on, man? Like,
so we had the Dade versus Broward game last night. I'm part owner of that game, so I was into it. I was getting excited, screaming, cheering, talking crap, and I lost my voice. It's been a long time since probably when I was like coaching high school ball that I lost my voice. But we're going to try to get you that information that you guys need, even with the mafioso, rasp that we got going on here. But, what I've been hearing is that schools are basically trying to tell Cormani that DVD is not going to be on staff next year. They were trying to tell Cormani that USF was going to be able to get him. They were trying to tell the kid that he's not going to be on the field, which is something that has been rumored to potentially be happening next year. So, there's so much stuff going on in Cormani's recruitment right now, and he's one of the top players in the country. He can be that type of kid that can wait till February and make a decision and still have everybody on his tail.
No doubt.
But overall, it is a wild process, I guess you could say, for the Hurricanes. I know they're probably stressing about it a little bit. You and I both heard that Miami shouldn't have been worried, that he was probably going to sign the next day, and that doesn't happen, like you said. And then yesterday, we were hoping for something. It doesn't happen. I still think Miami's the favorite here. I think I think that Colorado's making things interesting. I also think that Alabama is making things interesting. So I think he's trying to weigh all his options. I wouldn't be surprised to see the kid take some unofficial visits over the next couple months. And listen, Cormani is Cormani, right? I think everybody needs to realize that he's going to make decisions based on him. None of us, even the Miami people, thought he was going to commit to Miami the first time around. We thought he was a Florida lock, or at least Alabama lock. Somebody other than Miami was going to get him, and they were able to. So I still have faith that Cristobal and staff are able to, reel things in and make this happen, because they were able to do it the first time and shock everybody. This time it wouldn't be shocking, right? They have the upper hand. They've had his commitment for a little bit now. The relationship is there with DVD and Ma. So I think Miami's going to be all right.
Yeah, they are going to be all right, because the class, despite Cormani McClain not committing, is still very, very impressive. I mean, right now you've got a top 5 class in the country, tops in the ACC, tops in the state of Florida. Miami has, let's just count Cormani McClain. They've got 3 5-stars in this class, including Francis Mauanoa and Samson Okunlola, the 2 5-star tackles. And they were also able to land a blue chip cornerback on signing day. Damari Brown, the Miami legacy 4-star cornerback out of American Heritage, made his commitment to Miami and signed on Wednesday, early National Signing Day. Big get for the Hurricanes. I think I would actually say Damari Brown is actually a better cornerback than Cormani McClain overall. I think just physically, he's just a better athlete than Cormani. I think Cormani is very technically sound, and he may eventually be the better NFL prospect down the line. But as far as right now, ready to go to play a college football game, I like my chances with Damari Brown. It's an interesting recruiting process for him. He did visit Florida State with his brother Devontae Brown, who also transferred to Miami and committed this week. So now you've got the Brown brothers who are committed to the Miami Hurricanes at the same position, with potential with both to be playing on the field at the same time. That's actually a real possibility that could happen. So Florida State was in the mix. Of course, Alabama was in the mix as well. Nick Saban came to American Heritage High School to visit Damari Brown personally, but it wasn't enough, as Mario Cristobal and those loafers were able to get Damari to commit to Miami. It was a really great addition to this class. Defensive back overall is, if you don't count Cormani McClain, you only have Damari Brown and Robert Stafford as your legit cornerbacks. You also have Caleb Spencer as your lone safety. So overall, this class is really, really impressive, especially after a 5-win season. I mean, come on, Frank. I mean, I don't think you were you expecting Miami to land a top 5 class after seeing the abysmal season that they had?
I actually was. I was expecting close to top 5 at minimum. Mario Cristobal's done an excellent job on the recruiting trail. And you and I spoke about this during the year. I thought it was probably the best thing for Miami to go 5-7, right? You win 7 or 8 games. Some of these kids don't see the opportunity to play early like there is right now, right? These kids are coming in with the idea, I'm taking somebody's job. I'm going to play as a true freshman, be a potential freshman All-American. If you get to a decent bowl game or something like that, there's not that opportunity for everybody, right? Like, if you look at the recruiting class, say you lose Cormani McClain, right? You still got Damari Brown, who we feel is the best cornerback in South Florida. We got Antoine Jackson in the class, who is potentially a first-round draft pick if everything, pans out the way it should. He's 16 years old. He's going to be 17 years old as a freshman. Then you got Robert Stafford, who we think is one of the more underrated players in the country, regardless of position. Then you get Devontae Brown. Like, nobody's really talking about Devontae Brown. Devontae Brown was a stud at UCF before having a back injury this past season, right? He's played a ton of snaps. He's versatile. He can play safety or cornerback. I think he's an upgrade of a guy like an Al Blades Jr., right? The expectations we had for Al Blades Jr. this year, right, where we thought he was going to be able to help us at both safety and corner and kind of shore up some of those depth problems. I think he's going to be that guy to be that mesh player, right? The guy that you can just put him somewhere. He's going to be smart. He's not going to make mistakes. He might not be the most talented player out of everybody, right? He's not Cam Kinchins, right? But overall, he's really good. And Miami has completely flipped the roster at a number of different positions. Offensive line, linebacker, they bring in 4 different guys, not including Francisco Malagoa, who was one of the best linebackers in the Pac-12 last season. I think that this class is exceptional in all ways. I think the only thing that they could have really probably done different was grab a 5-star quarterback or a 4-star quarterback, right? Like Emory Williams, really good player, really good potential. He's not going to play in the next 2 years. That's one thing I think people need to understand, right? The expectations are he's going to come in with the potential of being really good, but it's going to be a process. It's going to be a process. He's coming from a Milton program that is one of the worst in the state of Florida, right? Not because of him, but he's a byproduct of a losing environment, right? So now you have to completely flip the image on him as a 3-star prospect, and he has to come in, put some weight on. We know he's 6'4", 6'5", skinny. He's not there yet, but he's got some nice mobility. He's got a good arm. But I think that's going to be the target for the next class is a guy like Michael Van Buren or somebody like that who's a potential 5-star quarterback.
Yeah, Emory Williams not as skinny as I thought when you see him, but he is 200 pounds, which is kind of surprising, but still could definitely put some weight on. Who's your MVP for the class?
The MVP of the class is Mark Fletcher. Okay. Mark Fletcher, right? I think Samson Okunlola, Francis Malagoa, great, right? The only problem I have is offensive tackles are part of a championship, recipe. They're not the guy that you put on ESPN as the face of the team.
They don't score touchdowns.
Mark Fletcher is, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in the country, right? Listen, I think we do a great job with our evaluations here at Rivals. I think that we have him a little low, right? He's one of those players I think we have. He's probably a top 5 back in the country for me. I think he's closer in the conversation to a Cedric Baxter, right? Like, that's the type of player he is. We saw what he did this year. Over 2,000 yards of total offense, over 20 touchdowns against an elite schedule, right? Bringing his team to a state championship game. He's got over 4,000 yards rushing, despite being a backup his freshman year, despite playing in a COVID season his sophomore year, right? He is a multi-time Broward County Player of the Year. He's going to come in and provide something that Miami hasn't had in a long time, and that is an elite back with elite size and an elite intangibles, right? Like, we've watched him grow as a receiver as well. It's not just being, like people want to say he's Derrick Henry. He is way more versatile than a Derrick Henry. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. We've seen him do some things, as a receiver where he's making big plays. He beat Shaman Amadana his junior year by himself almost, right? Brandon Inniss didn't have a good game, right, as a quarterback, right? But, like, he had a game where he had over 100 receiving yards against one of the best defenses in the country and Shaman Amadana. People don't realize that this guy is going to play a lot as a freshman. So that's why he's my MVP.
I hear you 100%, and I agree with you. That would have been my pick as well, but I am going to go on the defensive side of the ball myself for the more valuable player, and to me, it's Joshua Horton, man. To me, I think just his value on that defensive line on the inside, it should not be understated one bit because Miami's kind of hurting in that area. Yeah, you still have Leonard Taylor and you add the transfer Thomas Gore out of Georgia State. But adding a guy like Joshua Horton, I think he is going to get some playing time in year one, because we saw from Kevin Steele that he has a rotation of guys coming in and out. And I think Joshua Horton, based on the production that he had in high school and based on how they played young guys, including freshman Najee Kelly on this defensive line, I think he will get significant playing time in year one. And he's only going to get better year two and year three. So I think when it's all said and done, we are really going to be talking about how great of a pickup Josh Horton was. And just to flip him from North Carolina, let's just make sure we point that out, that they flipped him from a team that is inside the conference. So that could be something that could pay dividends, just not only for the team as a whole, but just possibly winning the conference. So once again, this is Marcus Benjamin and Frank Tucker here, represented from CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals Network. Another one of those players from this class that we actually had a chance to see last night in the Dade versus Broward game, battle for the crib, was Christopher Johnson, the lone Miami commit or signee, I should say, in this game. He was pretty impressive. I mean, he lined up at wide receiver, and caught some balls out of the backfield, made some people miss. Posted a video on social media. Frank, tell me just what you thought of him and any other players that kind of popped for you in the Dade County versus Broward County game.
Speaking on Chris Johnson, I love that kid. For him to play in this game, he didn't have to.
Right. Lost you there, Frank. Don't have you.
Sorry about that. It's just a testament to his competitive nature, right? And he played receiver the whole game, and he looked so good. He was open all night long. The speed was so easy to see. Nobody could cover him, and there was D1 kids all over that defensive backfield for the Dade side. He made about like 5 kids miss on one play. Cross field was utilized in the jet sweep game, which I think he's going to bring to this Miami Hurricanes team that they haven't had. Right? Like we've talked about so many times before. Romello Brinson was running jet sweeps for the Miami Hurricanes. He didn't even do that in high school, right? This is what Chris Johnson does best: use his speed, and he wants the ball in his hand. I had to hold him back. I'm not going to lie. I had to hold him back in this game. I didn't want any more jet sweeps. I didn't want him in a position where he shouldn't have been playing, or there was an opportunity for him, to get hurt or something like that. I didn't want that to happen. So, but on the sidelines, this kid is like, Frank, give me the ball. Give me the ball. He wants to win. And honestly, I'm so proud of how he handled the game and how he played. And he's as good as advertised. And then there were some other kids in this game that were absolute ballers. Xavier Irvin from Booker T. Washington won MVP, part MVP, co-MVP of this game. He was incredible. Kewan Lights Out Jenkins, FIU quarterback. I know
Xavier Washington. Talk a little bit more about who he is and where is he going?
He's going to Temple. And they just taken him as an athlete, trying to figure out where he's going to be. Receiver, DB, forced a fumble last night. He was making plays all over the field. I think he had a few catches as well. He's just one of those kids, and we've talked about it. He's probably the best ATH in South Florida, other than Edwin Joseph, right? Like, the kid does it all for Booker T. Washington. He was a breakout player this year. At the beginning of the year, everybody was asking, who is that kid? And at the end of the year, everybody knew who he was. And I think after last night, even more people are just astounded on how this kid was able to get out of the Power 5 ranks. He's going to Temple, right? They got to steal. So, 6 foot tall, very athletic, probably about 4.5 speed right now, elite ball skills, and just football football ability and intangibles, he is up there with some of the best we've had. And then lights out, just to speak on him, he won MVP, 3 touchdowns in the game, and he threw it to 2 Power 5 kids. Katerra Hicks had 2 touchdowns, game-winning one, no time remaining on the clock.
Yeah. I mean, before you go even more into it, just talk about that ending, man. It was a crazy ending. Dade versus Broward came down to the last play. I know, Frank coaches the Broward County All-Stars, so disappointed in the ending there. But man, Kewan Jenkins lights out, finding the Louisville commit. So FIU to Louisville on the connection for the game winner. Also, you can see that on our social media, but it was just a crazy ending. Second year of this game, Dade County versus Broward County. Broward County won last year. Dade County won this year. So it should be a very exciting event next year. Sniper Gang, Kodak Black's apparel company helped sponsor the event. The whole city was out there. It was just a great event overall for the kids. For me personally, and I'm not just saying this, but it was the best all-star game as far as talent is concerned. And with the thrilling ending as well. I mean, I don't remember I've been to a few of these, and I don't remember such an exciting finish with the amount of players that were in this game. So I just kind of wanted to speak on that. But you said Marcy Moore?
Yeah, he scores a touchdown. He has that last catch that puts Dade in position to score that game-winning touchdown. Diving catch along the sideline from Kewan Jenkins. He puts it on a frozen rope to his number one target. And listen, we had a double-digit Power 5 kids playing in the game, and I think every kid coming out of it is going to tell you how much fun they had. It was everything that I hoped it was, and I'm glad everybody came out. Thank you for coming out, Marcus, and hopefully we get some attention to these kids that deserve some recruiting attention.
Absolutely. On social media, we did retweet I did retweet the live stream. So if you want to check out the entire game, feel free to check that out. One player that didn't make it out, though, was Miami commit Antoine Jackson. He was supposed to be one of the players for this game, and he unfortunately didn't make it out due to some personal issues. But there has been some news swirling around him after he committed to Miami, along with Christopher Johnson. He put out on social media that he wasn't committing to Miami. And then, he later deleted the tweet out, but some concern there, just for the simple fact that, he kind of put that out there. I've heard that he, does want early playing time. And as you alluded to, he's just a 16-year-old, and let's be honest, it's going to take some time for him to develop into a collegiate defensive back. And right now, with the DB room as is, I don't see him really getting playing time over the likes of a Devontae Brown, potentially a Cormani McClain, or a Damari Brown, or a Daryl Porter Jr., or Takori Couch. As far as all of those DBs, I don't see him jumping over any of those guys. And then you do have some other guys like Jaden Harris, who potentially could be, next on the depth chart as well. So, with all those guys, I don't really see Antoine Jackson really seeing the field in year one and possibly even in year two. But I think down the line, he, has potential to be great, or one of the best ones to play at the University of Miami as of late. So interesting situation there to monitor. He did take a visit to East Carolina in December. And from what I hear, his girlfriend is supposed to be attending East Carolina as well. So that potentially could be a factor. But what I do want to say is that, what we've seen from Mario Cristobal and the staff and the type of guys that they want to bring in, they want players that want to be Miami Hurricanes. And I think every player that has signed is fully 1,000% committed to being Miami Hurricanes. So I think a conversation needs to be had, or maybe it's already been had, about how much does he want to be a Miami Hurricane, or is it all about him and getting playing time? And I think he's a great player, and I think he's in a situation where he's only 16 years old. He reclassified from the 2024 class to 23, so obviously he's an outstanding student in the classroom and on the football field. Like I said, potential is just through the roof for this kid, but I just don't see him seeing the field anytime soon. And I'm concerned with how Mario Cristobal and the staff feels about him creating this narrative or those type of headlines.
Yeah, I think Twan's going to be committed in the class. I think there were some things going on, obviously, personally. But you and I both know Twan, and we know how good of a kid he is. And, I think I think sometimes kids have to go through their own process. And I think, maybe he was just going through his own process, right? Same thing with Cormani. And I think that's one of the things that, Hurricane fans need to be respectful about a little bit too. Is, you see some fans going on Twitter and stuff going on crazy at Cormani. You see some fans talking about Twan. Sometimes these are people, right? We've all made decisions about work, right? Where we don't know what we're going to do, right? Or we've made the wrong decision on paths in our own lives. So I think sometimes kids have to make their own decisions, man. And I think he is 16 years old at the end of the day. He's not going to be perfect. But I think he realizes that, even without maybe playing as a freshman, which I still think he has the potential to do just because of how good he really can be. The potential is there for him to be an elite level player. That's why even in a reclass, he's still a top 200 prospect in the country and a strong blue chip player. So I think he's going to do well at Miami. I think there's a reason, that they still have him in the class and that they want him in the class, and because they know how good he can be. And honestly, it's just another early signing day narrative, right? It's just the fun of signing day. And I'm happy for Twan that he did, he went on Instagram and posted, stay in the path, stay in the course, with a video of him committing to Miami, and signing to Miami. So, I think things will get straightened out, and he'll be good. He'll be a Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, we definitely hope he sticks with the class and he remains a Miami Hurricane. Really excited for his future at Miami. Miami does have some holes to fill at certain positions. I do want to kind of touch on the transfers. You already touched on Francisco Mauigoa, the linebacker. So got a ton of linebacker help in this class with Bobby Washington, Malik Bryant, Marcellus Pulliam, and Francisco Mauigoa now. Definitely stacking at that position, which is great. I don't think we've had a set of linebackers as fierce as we do right now to go along with, Corey Flagg and also Wesley Basaint. It's really a nice group of linebackers. And we haven't even talked about Chase Smith a lot, and I think that's a guy who's kind of underrated that may pop in the spring. So, but we'll see on that. And then, Keontre Smith is still on the roster, so a lot of rumors of him transferring out right now. He is still on the roster. So it's just absolutely it's surprisingly now a place of abundance where it was, a lack of depth at that spot. But some other holes that definitely need to be filled, whether it be through the transfer portal or in recruiting, likely will be the transfer portal, are wide receiver, defensive tackle, and safety. Safety in particular, unfortunately, Miami couldn't do enough to get Conrad Hussey. Conrad Hussey, the four-star safety out of St. Thomas Aquinas, super athletic, really great kid. Of course, you and I, we know Conrad, and unfortunate to see him go to the rival Florida State. He flips from Penn State to go to Tallahassee. But that safety spot is still, especially free state safety in particular, is still vacant there. And then we did see some guys go off the board as well as Derek Williams, Texas. And then Dalen Austin also went off the board as well. Miami is interested in that kid. So defensive tackle is also a concern. And then also wide receiver is still a concern as well. I expect Miami to go into the portal for all of these three positions. What are you hearing, Frank, about any of these three positions in Miami that Miami could potentially target or Miami could potentially sign eventually?
Well, it's not. I know they're trying to turn every stone at receiver. Unfortunately, there's just been so many of the top guys going to other top schools. Dorian Singer goes to USC. I know that's somebody that they liked. Andrew Armstrong goes another direction. The freak of nature, FCS prospect.
Rara Thomas went to Georgia.
Yeah. Then there was another receiver that went to Georgia. They went and got two out of the portal. It's just Tyrese Chambers goes to Maryland, right? It's been tough. It's been tough because I know that they've been looking for outside guys. And I mean, you even see Alonzo Highsmith throwing out offers at receiver, trying to work his Colby Young magic, and it just hasn't happened. And listen, I think they're going to be okay at receiver. People don't realize how good Ray and Robbie really are. They have the potential to really expand this offense with their speed. Chris Johnson has nice length, and he could play outside if you need him to as a vertical threat that they just really don't have. So they added three guys that could help at receiver. Obviously, you want elite prospects like a Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tates, Hakeem Williams, Andy Jeans. You want kids like that to play on the outside. They just weren't able to flip it in this first class. And I think it's just because Mario's only been here a year. He's only been here like literally 365 days. Yeah, and a lot of those kids were being recruited by those schools for upwards of 3 to 4 years. So it's hard to immediately come in and do that. But I think that the 24 class is going to be where they go get a lot of receivers. And then at safety, oh, man, I think Devontae Brown's going to have to be the solution because they can't find anything right now. They can't find anything in the 2023 class. And I think Robert Stafford might be a guy that with his size, ball skills, he could end up transitioning to safety as well if they put enough weight on him. So there are some options there. It's obviously not ideal. We heard some smoke on Jaden Bonsu potentially, getting back into the thick of things with Ohio State, playing some games, but he ends up signing. Terrence Love ends up signing at Auburn, right? Like all the targets
ends up signing with Colorado.
Yeah. Joan Allegero still goes to Georgia, right? Like it was a tough class at receiver and safety for me. And I think everybody else. And I think they're just kind of pushing to 24. Like you got Zaquan Patterson. That's going to be a prized recruit out of South Florida that Georgia, the Alabamas, the Michigans, Ohio States are all going to go after. A receiver. You got JoJo, Chance Robinson, Jeremiah Smith. You got a ton of options. Ryan Wingo, another top 5 receiver out of Missouri, is very interested in Miami as well. So I think short term, it's going to hurt Miami that they didn't get anybody in those spots, and there's really not any options. Like you can't even really think they could go here. There's really no routes of opportunity. And the transfer portal, there's not a lot of safety help. There's still some guys at receiver, so we'll see what they do. You know, they got Frank Ladson pretty late in the process, I think, last year. They could probably do, try to pull something off like that again, but 2024 is probably going to be where we get some, semblance of a solution there.
Yeah, some names to watch for receiver is Dante Thornton. Miami still actively trying to get Dante Thornton to sign. He's still potentially available. They did get him on campus last weekend. And then another name I think we need to kind of monitor is Raymond Cottrell. He is committed to Georgia, but from what I hear, Georgia, we already talked about, they added a couple of receivers, so potentially not going to be a spot for him. He's committed, to the Bulldogs, 6'3", 205 pounds. He kind of fits the mold of the bigger receiver that Miami is looking for. Played with Emory Williams at Milton. So there's definitely potential to get him on campus for a visit, and he could definitely fill a spot there. And like I said, I do like, where they are so far with Dante Thornton. He's another big receiver, 6'5", 198. And I think he can definitely fill a hole as well at wide receiver. But yeah, I think 24 is going to be definitely an interesting class for Mario Cristobal. Mario Cristobal kind of alluded to that the 24 class is probably the most important. That he just kind of said, yeah, that's when you really kind of get rolling. Is that not this class, but the next class is probably even more important than this 23 class. But as far as position groups, I think they got to go for a quarterback. A quarterback in the next class is very, very important. They're looking at some guys like, Aaron Norland, as well as CJ Bailey could be a possibility as well. And Michael Van Buren are some names to really kind of watch for the 2024 class. Which one of the 2024 signal callers intrigues you the most, Frank?
Michael Van Buren and Aaron Norland, those are the two. I think they fit this offense perfectly. I think Josh Gaddis wants a quarterback that can move the pocket a little bit. Both those guys can, and they both have put up huge numbers at two very elite programs. Michael Van Buren's at St. Francis in the Baltimore area, one of the top programs in the country. And Aaron Norland has brought Langston Hughes out of Georgia from a 2-8 program to a undefeated Georgia State champion in one of the more elite classifications in the country. So both those guys, not elite size for either of them either. That's something to talk about, right? We're kind of seeing the quarterbacks transition from needing to be 6'5" to they could be 6 foot, 6'1", as long as they can move in the pocket, maybe make some things happen. They'll go after, right? And I think the arm talent for those guys is there. The modern day quarterback of being able to throw off platform, different arm angles, having a little bit of swagger to them, right? They got some confidence, right? Like if you go on those kids' social medias, right? They are social media like stars, right? Like these are the they have confidence. They have a presence, and those are the type of kids that I'm glad Miami's going after. And that's why I think that, it's nice to get an Emory Williams, but the prize prospect of the next class has to be the quarterback because, I think we could talk about Jaden Rashada a little bit. I think he's a good player, right? We wish he was in the class. I don't know if he was the quarterback of the future either, right? I don't necessarily know if that was the case. But overall, I think those two kids could be the future of the program and bring the same exciting guys like Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke, and even before that, like a Ja'Cory Harris brought to the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree about those quarterbacks. They're very interesting to see where they go at QB for 24. A couple of names I also want to mention about transfers as well is Isaac Tesla, man. This is a receiver from a small school at Hillsdale. I think this is a player that Miami is really, really high on. He's likely going to visit within the next few weeks. 6'4", 210. Just a really good athlete. Runs a 4.5 40. He's just a guy that I could definitely see them adding at wide receiver. So look out for that name in the next upcoming weeks here. And then also a guy that they may be looking into is Chip Allers. This is a player that they offered, maybe a couple of weeks ago. He's kind of a defensive guy. Another guy to kind of add to the rotation on the defensive line. 6'3", 215. Out of kind of the West Coast, northwest part of the country, up there in Oregon. So, Miami has been doing well in recruiting that area, getting players like Riley Williams and, of course, Jaden Wayne. So those are a couple names to kind of watch in these next upcoming weeks. Next upcoming weeks is going to be all about the transfers and getting those guys on campus. Not so much with recruits. Like I said, Cottrell is probably the one you kind of look out for as far as wide receivers is concerned. But safety is kind of a mystery right now as far as where they go. Of course, more on Canes County as far as in the next coming weeks of where they go at safety. But the players they do have committed to the class, a lot of them will be in attendance at the UA All-American game coming up next week. And we've got players like Cormani McClain, who's supposed to be in this game, a team captain. So it'll be interesting if he shows up for media day or whatnot. He's kind of a shy kid, when it comes to the media, but we'll see, if he shows up for media. I'm pretty sure he'll show up for the game, but he'll also be accompanied by other Canes signees like Riley Williams, Francis Mawangoa, Ruben Bain will be attending in this game as well. So you got some guys. Robert Stafford also will be an attendee for the UA All-American game. So it should be an interesting a game. Of course, another player that was in the Dave versus Broward game last night, Javen Simpkins, will also be at the UA All-American game as well. He recently decommitted from Georgia Tech and is looking at options like UCF, Michigan State, and FAMU as well. So and as well as Georgia Tech. So those are some of the guys to look out for in that game. I will be in Orlando covering that game, bringing you all of the coverage as well as almost the entire Rivals team as far as the Southeast region will be there, giving you wall-to-wall coverage on the UA All-American game. What are you excited for within the next upcoming weeks, man? We're going into 7-on-7 season. We got some all-star games. We got the transfer portal. What are you most excited about in these next couple weeks, Frank?
I'm excited for the start of 7-on-7. I mean, some of the best teams in the country are coming out of the South Florida area. South Florida Express, national champions last year in the 7-on-7 realm. Raw Miami is one of the more intriguing teams that's going to be emerging. First-year program, going to have elite players throughout. There's a strong Miami connection there, so we're going to see a lot of national recruits coming onto the Miami campus over the next 6 months from that Raw program, which is kind of interesting because Julian Sain is going to be their quarterback. He's currently an Alabama commit, right? Being able to get him down to South Florida is going to be something that could make things interesting. There were conversations before I got a chance to speak to Julian. He was interested in Miami. They were one of his schools like that he was actually considering down the line, despite being so far away from home. And him committing to Miami proves to me that it doesn't have to be a West Coast school for him. So if Miami can get back into that race, that's as elite as they come. And then obviously DEF CON, I got a lot of love for that program. And there's some studs on that team. CJ Ewald, current Michigan commit, Zaquan Patterson, Mario Wallace, 2025 safety out of Miami Central. So I'm so excited for the start of that. And I'm excited to see the off-season visits. Remember last year we had, the camps, right? We had the elite prospect camp that Mario Cristobal put on in January last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Like all those things are going to be happening very fast. And you and I have still a lot of work to do, even in an off season. It's probably going to be almost more work for us. And I'm excited for that because there's going to be so much recruiting news and there's going to be so much momentum from a top 5 class in 2023 in their first, and Mario Cristobal and Steph's first year coming off a 5-7 season. I think that if you can prove that freshmen can have an impact in the first year, you could have another huge class, potentially even top 3, because there's so many homegrown kids that are 5-star or high 4-star players. So I'm excited to see the momentum. I'm excited to see who's going to be the first non-kicker commit in 2024. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen at the start of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to see where it goes. Merry Christmas, Frank. And Happy New Year. Once we get there, of course, we'll have another podcast before that. But happy holidays to anybody listening to the podcast. Appreciate all the love on social media and the YouTube channel and Canes County is going to continue to grow. And it's going to be a huge off season for us because, to be honest, no one's going to be covering, especially South Florida recruiting, as harder than CanesCounty.com. So tune in for us and make sure you subscribe to the website as well as the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms. Until the next time.